The next talk is going to be virtual, so we'll need to bring up George Kavanagh, KB1HFT. I've known George for a number of years. He's actually part of the Neshoba Valley Amateur Radio Club back home, not that far from the observatory. And George has been working with the New England Grape Group, an early and prolific set of builders of the Grape 1, for example, and now other grape parts. And so he's going to be talking about a study of sudden loss of WWV signal as seen by HamSCI Grape stations.
And he makes use of Andrew's maps.
Yes, and he in fact, as we'll hear, makes use of Andrew's wonderful maps as well, so it follows on very nicely from what you just heard. George, are you online? I see your face.
And he can share his screen directly.
Yes,
Can you hear me now?
I can, George. We can hear you fine. Just go ahead and share your screen, and I think we can go ahead. So the floor is yours.
All right, let me just share my screen. I'm George Kavanagh, KB1HFT. I'm what I call sort of a casual radio amateur. I licensed first in high school in 1963 and got the bug and went off to college to learn how antennas work. And I became involved in HamSCI several years ago. Actually, Phil Erickson pointed me in that direction. And me and a small group of local friends, known as now the New England Grape Group, have been playing around with grapes since Grape 1 DRF. This presentation I put together with the assistance of the other guys in the Grape Group, which is Bob Reif, W1XP, Bill Blackwell, AB1XB, Stan Pozerski, KD1LE, and Peter Nordberg, N1ZRG. They are all HamSCI members and members of the New England Grape Group. Grape stations early in the early days of Grape 1 DRF, it was noted that on the Thursday HamSCI calls that unexpected, very sharp dropouts of the signals were seen, and here's a chart showing the Grape 1, Grape 1 FL Digi output from I think this was January 10th, and this chart shows only the people in the signals reported by the New England Grape Group guys, and they all dropped out together. So what is this? We all live pretty close to each other in Northeast Massachusetts. There was no explanation of these dropouts from the HamSCI community on the Thursday Zoom calls, and I was curious myself. HamSCI and Nathaniel and the people building the grapes were very interested in the very fine detail of ionospheric changes. And I said, well, here's a really large artifact. What is that? So there was some thought that, well, this can't be natural. Nothing in the ionosphere doesn't change that fast. Well, this presentation is intended to demonstrate a strong correlation, coincident in time, between the dropouts and the changes in the MUF at the midpoint of the path from WWV to the neg team. Neg is New England Grape Group. Other explanations were suggested that were sort of not natural, but maybe the grape front ends were overloading, or maybe there was a software glitch, or maybe the sound card had a hardware glitch, or maybe WWV lowered its output. Well, no, those were all looked at and found to be not explanatory. This is January 10th. I smoothed it using a Butterworth filter, and it's very, very sharp signal drop there in maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. That's pretty sharp. If you look at the unfiltered version of this, it's all very, very noisy, but there's a definite sharp drop there. So what's causing that? Well, I used Andrew's MUF maps, and they illustrate an estimate of the changing conditions that can allow refraction of RF energy, as Andrew really just described. like topographic maps, which delineate the contours of equal elevation. MUF maps delineate the contours of equal MUF. Now, on an MUF, a closed contour of a frequency approximates the geographical area where the refraction is expected to occur only below that frequency. Now, this is a little bit only half the story. This is only when the closed contour is within other closed contours of higher frequency. So if you have a closed contour that is the lowest frequency in a group of them, nothing will refract above that frequency within that contour. So I've been told that atmospheric refraction occurs approximately at the midpoint of the path between transmitter and receiver. Well, I took screenshots every 15 minutes of the maps from Andrew's kc2g.com, prop.kc2g.com website, and he updates these every 15 minutes. So I, like I said, wrote a little script that just takes a screenshot of the Raspberry Pi output display every 15 minutes and just kind of watched and saw what happens. The following slides, and I have a few, showed the time of the dropout observed by NEG, that is between 5 and 7 UTC on the 10th. The 10 megahertz contour covers and uncovers the midpoint of the path. Isn't that interesting? So here's the first screenshot. We see WWV over here, and the midpoint is over here, just above Indiana. And here's the New England Grape group. And this is MLDG spectrum scope showing the signal strength. And this is just the first of several slides showing this. This was taken on the 10th of January at 3:15 a.m. UTC. And then at 3:30, oh, look, here's an area of MUF less than 10 megahertz. And if we watch that over time, this is at 3:30, here's 3:45, oh, it's beginning to grow. And at 4 o'clock, and at 4:15, and at 4:30, and I skipped 4:45, unfortunately, I lost that picture. But it's kind of closing in on that midpoint, that yellow dot. And at 5:15, it gets occulted. I think that's the right word. And notice how the signal strength here received in New England has dropped significantly. We continue on, and my gosh, look at that, a giant 10 megahertz contour, and here's a 7 and down below. So signals, 10 megahertz signals, really aren't getting through to as well as they used to into New England. And here's the low point of the signal strength. And then things start to clear up. Oops, skip one, start to clear up. And the midpoint is no longer occulted. And we go on and things clear up. So a strong correlation in time has been demonstrated here between the reported dropouts and the changes in the MUF QED. I think that's sort of a low-tech graphical display of quantitative information that was kind of fun to do. It's seen on grape plots for other frequencies. In fact, you can see it on, say, a 15 megahertz plot where all of a sudden, quote, the band goes dead. Well, that's because the ionosphere has changed and we're not getting the refraction. So this is just a single example that I've seen many days. A special thank you to Andrew, who provided the maps and assisted in this presentation. And I thank you very much. Couldn't have done it without you. And again, this is a rather low-tech way to look at things, but it was a lot of fun. So back to Nat.
Thanks, George. That was an absolutely beautiful example of what one can do if you're a citizen scientist and you're curious and you just start trying to put A and B together. George, you were so efficient that we have time for a question or two. before we go to the next speaker. I'm going to call an audible on that. Does anybody have a question about this in particular? And pipe up if you see something online. Laura from the back of the room. I'll repeat the question, by the way, for the online.
That show number of days where there's not a patient. Don't see.
Right. So George, Laura is asking for the control case where you show days where there wasn't that particular density feature and that the attenuation didn't happen, if I understand Laura correctly.
Again, please.
The idea, George, is that, can you hear me? Oops.
He can hear you through there.
Hi,
Hello.
George. Can you hear
Hello.
me?
How are you?
Okay. So I'm talking to an owl, George. This is
That's
really
great.
strange.
The audio is wonderful.
Oh, okay. Laura in the audience was asking if you've done the control case where you have had a day where you did not have that density happening and you didn't see the particular reduction in amplitude. And I'm going to step away from the owl slowly now.
Step away from the owl. No, I haven't done that. Is the short answer.
I think I just came up with this another small project for you.
Okay. Namaste.